Welcome to Be Global, the podcast that delves into the experiences, challenges, and migration trends for global citizens. I'm your host, Gizane Campos, and today we're exploring the intersection of mental health and expat life, how to prepare for a move, overcome challenges, and embrace the opportunities of a new chapter abroad. Joining us today are three incredible guests. Dr. Laura Madrid Sartoretto, research lead at Global Citizen Solutions, who will share some insights from the newly released 2025 Quality of Life rankings. Gal and Maayan, co-founders of the Smoozitive app, a platform designed to simplify the expat journey, and Bianca Tate, an expat coach, helping individuals navigate major life decisions. So, it is January, it's dark and gloomy in the North Hemisphere, and I think we are all savoring an emotional hangover after a few weeks of, maybe going too hard in the festive season. 2025 starts with those projects that we all want to make it come true, but the main job is not to give up before Feb. So, no, trust me, we are not going to delve into your fitness routine or how much broccoli you commit yourself to eat this month. Let's dive in and help you out with that goal of relocating or simply experiencing life abroad for good, moving completely, or living for a period of your time in a different country. So, before we start, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, our guests. And I'd like you to say your name, where you are calling from, and what was your, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't want you to tell me your New Year's resolution, but what you thought you could make different in 2025. So I'll start first, okay? My name is Gizane. I'm calling from Lisbon, and I've lived in 3 different countries. And this year, what I want to do differently is to tackle admin as a grown-up. Because one thing that expats, we don't talk about when you become a citizen of different countries, of different nationalities, is the amount of work, of admin that comes with it. And when you have an offspring, which is my case, I have to deal with documents from 5 different countries. So I will tackle it one document at a time, one paper at a time. So that's what I'm going to do this year. So how about you, Laura?
Hello, this is a very good question. And I think your resolution is quite relevant. And I should also use this for me as well, because I'm also living in a country that is not my country of nationality. And I do have to deal with different consulates and different legal systems. So my name is Laura Madrid. I'm calling from sunny Blue Skies Madrid. And my resolution this year is to try reading more fiction books, not only, literature that I use for the reports and for work, but I would like to have the time to read more fictional books this year.
Great, thank you. Yes, I also want to read more fictional books. Maya and Gal, can you tell me where you're calling from and what you have, how many countries you lived, and what do you plan to do differently in 2025?
So I'm Gal. I'm calling from Paris. And for 2025, I want to say that I heard this amazing podcast a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about doing less. So I think that's my biggest resolution. I cannot say that I'm doing well so far, but that's the objective, to do less. We tend to overdo, overthink, want to condense everything. So I'm gonna try and do less this year.
I love it. I'm Maayan, calling from Paris as well, from the same room actually. And my resolution for 2025 is to prioritize myself more, what's important for me and what matters to me, and not only think about others. So yeah, love your resolutions as well.
Yes, so good.
Thank you. Yes, I'm loving hearing all these resolutions here because they're all very relevant. Bianca, hi, welcome. I want to hear a bit about you.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Bianca. I'm calling from Lisbon, Portugal, which is now my fourth country that I'm living in. And for 2025, I really want to embrace the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So really take my own medicine, take my own advice, and when you inevitably hit some of those downs, remind myself really why I'm doing it, coming back to my values, and trying to embrace the ups as well as the downs.
I think I'll take a little bit of all your resolutions here and add it to mine. And just make it, kind of a baby steps and ensure I do a little bit every day, or not even every day, just once a week, and I think we'll all be fine. But anyway, I'll leave the well-being and mindset for the specialists. Right now, I'm going to dive into the quality of life ranking. So for those of you that are hearing about it for the first time, Global Citizen Solutions has a passport index called the Global Passport Index. The index has three different indexes that forms the final number, the final ranking. And one of those indexes is the quality of life one. And I'm going to ask Laura, because she's the research lead behind the, crunching the numbers to get us with the final results. So I want to ask her, with the key findings from the 2025, could you share what stood out to you the most?
Yes, sure. So we are going to talk a little bit about the quality of life dimension of the Global Passport Index, 2025 Global Passport Index. And for start with, I'm going to give you some highlights and key takeaways of the report and the index, and then we can discuss further, specific contexts. First of all, again, Nordic countries maintain top positions, with Sweden, Finland, and Denmark as the top five countries. Switzerland, although the country scores really high in the Global Passport Index overall, because it scores really high investment dimension and the mobility dimension of the Global Passport Index, it did felt a lot in the quality of life dimension. It is ranked 46th, and it's mainly because of high living costs and lack of affordable housing in the country. The US and Canada have also dropped, and we are going to discuss the US context further. Portugal has emerged as a relevant destination for people that look for pleasant weather, sunlight, safety, social connections, and good work-life balance. And still in Europe, it is a more affordable option for people that want to relocate in that country. Japan has also climbed some positions because the country has implemented some laws that limited working hours, and then it prompted a more balanced relation between life and work. So these are the highlights, and we can then discuss further, specific contexts.
There are some very interesting points there. I'd like to delve a bit more into Scandinavia. So they seem to be dominating the rankings, and Sweden is again at the top for the third year. So what are the takeaways from their approach to well-being, and how other countries can learn from them?
Yes, we identified in not only in Scandinavia but also in Nordic countries, because we include Finland and Iceland as well, in countries that score really high in quality of life dimension. And scholars call it the Nordic exceptionalism. Because the countries, they maintain a high ranking when it comes to quality of life, and it's not different in the Global Passport Index and in the quality of life dimension of the Global Passport Index. And we have identified some elements that are common to those countries and that make the countries score so high in the quality of life dimension. First of all, they have a reliable welfare state. So you have universal healthcare and education that are free for all and high quality as well. Additionally, when you talk about healthcare in some specific Nordic countries, mental health is treated with the same importance as physical health. In Finland, you're gonna have mental health integrated to primary services, and in Denmark, they emphasize early intervention and community-based support for people in need of mental health support. The second element is work-life balance. All the countries, they have generous parental leave and flexible work arrangements. In Sweden, for instance, both parents have 480 paid days of parental leave, and it's well above the EU average, that is 210 days. And all Nordic countries, they have above EU average parental leave, and it helps families to conciliate and have a good balance, work-life balance. It is a bit counterintuitive, but it doesn't affect productivity of Nordic workers. Those countries, again, are among the most productive when you think about per hour productivity of workers. And this balance between work and life does not affect productivity in those countries. A third element that we identified is that Nordic societies, they benefit from a profound connection to nature. They have abundant green spaces. They usually introduce and include in their weekly life outdoor exercising. And it's also very important when it comes to mental health and health in general. The Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Helsinki and Oslo are again in the top positions in the Green City Index. And this index, it evaluates, if the cities have green spaces, the quality of the air, and environmental policies that are implemented in the urban areas. Equality is also important when you talk about Nordic countries, and then you have this sense of equality between men and women, and of course a generous parental leave allow women to get access to labor market and to not be discriminated against in the labor market. And they also have this very strong social fabric. Those countries are again amongst the highest in the rankings when you talk about interpersonal relationship and trust and institutional trust. And they are above average, especially when you talk about EU average regarding police trust, politicians trust, and institutional trust in general. So you get a strong social fabric in those countries, and it also helps people to have this safety net that they need when you talk about mental health and quality of life in general. So together, those five elements or those five factors always put Nordic countries in the top positions when we talk about quality of life indexes and rankings in general.
Dora, those numbers are remarkable, and we I think we all know without even looking into data that there is certainly quality of life in Scandinavian countries, and we know how strong their social fabric is, and the respect for institutions and so on. And I do work-life balance, parental leave. But when you see all those, information in data, in numbers, it really supports what we should be doing now in our private lives, as well as our at a governmental and societal level. So I'd like to go a little bit further and ask you, how do you think these factors, actually, sorry, you mentioned somewhere the role of a foreign direct investment and a welcoming stance towards migrants. So how do you think these factors impact mental health for expats moving to such countries?
I don't know if I got the question right, but you're talking about how foreign direct investment contribute to
And the,
the.
and the welcoming welcoming stance towards migrants.
Usually what happens, especially lately, is that there is a narrative that immigrants or migrants will be a burden for the host societies, and that they will take advantage of public services. But what I have to show in data in this opportunity in this podcast is the example, the case of Portugal, for instance. Portugal in 2008 was recovering, was actually in a huge financial crisis, and in the last years it has recovered a lot, and it's largely driven by immigration and foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment in a country has revitalized sectors of the economy like construction, tourism, and technology. And immigration has helped the country to deal with labor shortages. So, of course, the influx of international talent and investment from abroad has helped the country to tackle the consequences of the 2008 financial crisis. Um, it it contradicts what people or what some media outlets say about immigration, not only from the economic side, and then we talk about foreign direct investment, but also from the personal and talent side, because they're gonna have this influx of international talent. When we can demonstrate this information with data, we can show to the whole society that actually they are benefiting from immigration and from migrants, and you're gonna have a smoother integration process, because immigration is portrayed in a more positive light as it should be portrayed. Um, I think this is one way when we can demonstrate that immigration and foreign direct investment are important elements for the host societies. In Portugal and actually Spain as well demonstrate this context.
That's great. That's great, Laura. Those are really good insights. I do, but since we're talking about migration now, I still have some questions for you about the poor performance of the US and the poorer performance of Switzerland in comparison with the Scandinavian countries, the Nordic countries. But we're talking about migration now, and I think would be a really good moment to bring in Smoozitive and speak to Gal and Maayan. So Gal, Maayan, thank you for joining us. So Smoozitive helps expats navigate their move abroad. Can you share how a mental preparation plays a role in making this transition smoother?
Sure. Do you want to go?
No, we're good.
Okay. So thank you for having us. And first of all, this is really interesting, all the insights and all this information that you just mentioned. And maybe we'll try to connect those two, because you talked a lot about those Scandinavian countries. But from what we know, those are countries where a lot of expats are having a hard time integrating and living in those amazing countries, right? They have like the best maternity leaves, and they have like, they give mental health treatments and a lot of things to their citizens. But a lot of expats having a really hard time to integrate. And I feel that one of the biggest thing that is blocking them is this preparation, this mental preparation, because a lot of people are arriving to a new country, for example, in Sweden or Denmark, and the culture shock is so big that they don't understand how to navigate the local system, how to approach people, how to ask for help. They don't read correctly the reaction of people, of the local people, and they're miserable. We have a lot of clients in those countries who are miserable, and that's actually one of the reasons we created Smoozitive, because we see so many people living in those amazing countries, and they're not enjoying their lives. They're spending their time struggling and surviving, when they would just have to just, take what they are given and enjoy this life. And this is where the preparation is crucial. And a lot of people are, preparing their move abroad by taking care of their visa, finding a job, looking for, tax regulations that they need to know, looking for all the logistics, which is really, really important. And without that, you can't move. But they really neglect the emotional and mental aspect of a move abroad. And we feel this makes the difference between having, a relocation and staying there and struggling and waiting for the time to pass, and having a life abroad where you can actually enjoy it, and enjoy the benefits of those amazing countries.
Thanks for bringing this different perspective. It's actually very important. Moving to the Nordic countries is not for the faint-hearted. The winter is really harsh. And yeah, there are some cultural differences, the so-called coldness of the north, which is ingrained in culturally as well, which might not mean that they're not warm people inside, but they don't express in the same way as other parts of the world.
If I can just add a contribution.
Sure.
It's very important to mention what Maya said, because usually when you talk about indicators, quality of life indicators, those quality of life indicators are developed for people that are nationals or long residents. So that's why it's difficult that they will identify the struggles that expats face when they go to a country. And I understand that especially when you talk about Nordic countries, the language and the bureaucracy in the systems, like the healthcare, for instance, education systems, they are a very strong challenge for people that are expats in those countries. That's why I agree that preparation and integration programs in those countries are very important to the success of the relocation process.
Sure. Bianca, do you have something to add here?
Yes, I mean, I have to agree a little bit with everybody, right? Long term is very different than just arriving. And even myself, with some German roots, going to the Netherlands for the first time, I was quite shocked by the culture, and even joining the workforce there and really integrating. So I think it's always great, right, to be prepared for what you're walking into. So doing the research on the culture, reaching out to people that have already lived there, that have moved there, that may be from a similar background from you, and really just mentally preparing for what you're walking into, I think is really important. But yes, depending on where you go and also what your own background is, it can be difficult to integrate and adapt. Which is why, I mean, when I work with my clients, we kind of plan ahead for these things. We already look ahead for these are common pitfalls that you might fall into. Even I myself in my own journey have struggled with times of isolation and trying to figure out how do I make friends here because I didn't proactively plan around these things. Before my move. And then next thing I know, once the focus, as Maayan said, once the focus of logistics dies down, you have your housing sorted, you're in your routine with work, that's when the reality typically hits. It's not for the first few weeks, right? You have that honeymoon period. And once that wears off, you realize, okay, wow, I am in a different environment. This is difficult to navigate, which is why getting prepared for these things and having some plans in place, doing research beforehand is so critical for a smooth as possible transition. But there's definitely always going to be some ups and downs when you're moving abroad.
Absolutely. My personal tip, it might not work because I'm not a specialist, but it works for me. I always make friends before I move to the country. In the past, when Facebook was big, I used to go into Facebook groups and, try to find some groups there, groups of moms and so on. And then, yeah, that was even before I was thinking of moving. It was just like, I think this country is interesting. Let me look into, like the communities here and see how I can integrate. But anyway, let's talk to the specialists now. I want to go back to Maayan and Gal. So, and the app, Smoozitive. So the app focus on combining expert knowledge and mindset work, right? What are the biggest mindset shifts people need to make when planning to move abroad?
I'll start by saying that I guess the biggest mindset shift that people need to work is understand that you need to work on your mindset. And a lot of people are, as we said earlier, are overlooking this thing. They focus all their energy into researching things or looking externally instead of looking internally. How am I feeling about this move abroad? What do I want from it? Why do I even move abroad? One of the biggest programs that we have on our app is to figure out the real reason for a relocation. And a lot of people will say to you, but I know why I'm moving. I'm moving for a great job opportunity, or I'm moving for an adventure, but it's not necessarily the real reason. And then it causes struggles later on. So the reason why we created this app this way is that we understand that there is a balance between the fact that we're human beings and we need to know things because without this knowledge, we are facing a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty causes us stress and sleepless nights and exhaustion and other stuff. So we need the knowledge on one hand, but the mindset work is a lot about how do we approach things, because one of the things that a lot of expats will deal with is the fact that things are different. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different than what they're used to be and used to do. And the way you approach situations will impact greatly how you will experience the different situations. So those kind of things, this is what we focus on inside of our app and the work that we do with our clients is how do you approach certain situation, who you are when you approach those situations, how do you make sure that you as a person is taken care of amidst all the other stuff that you have to take care of when you move abroad.
Very good points there. And I'd like to say a lot of people that never moved abroad or never thought of or had a group of friends that moved abroad before or never had to migrate are now looking into migration. So they are they're freshers. And for instance, we have at Global Citizen Solutions, a great majority, a good number, not majority, but a good number of our clients come from the US. And so migrating to a new country is something new. So let's pretend I've downloaded the app here, Smoozitive. How it can help me with the daunting task of logistics, visa application, if I'm able to work in the country or not. How can you give me intangible information, how the app helps people through this process?
So what the app does is give you exactly the knowledge that you need. It's not done for you services, but it's giving you the knowledge. And knowledge is not only power, but it's also security. When you know something and you know, for example, if you're moving to Portugal and you need, to know what the immigration process is, you need to understand the terms, the words that people are using when somebody will take care of your visa. So the app gives you knowledge. It's all video content created by experts from all over the world. So you have the knowledge, but that's not enough, because you can Google, and look online for information that might be true or not, relevant to you or not, but you can find the information. So here we give you knowledge from experts that are, from what we know, trustworthy, and we ask them to give the information in a simple way. So don't give me, the statistics and the big words. Just talk to me like I was a friend of yours. So it's very important for us. So once you have the information, that's one thing. But on the other hand, and we talked about it before, you need the mindset to actually go and do something with this information that you have, with this knowledge that you have. Because if you have the information and you're a newbie in this world, and you're coming from the US to Portugal, for example, and now you know what you need to do in order to get your visa, for example, but you're too scared to do it, and you're never going to do it, and you are going to stay in the US, and that's perfectly fine. But if it's not what you want to do, you need to have the courage to actually act on your desires and to use this knowledge that you have to actually call an expert and ask them to help you with your visa, or meet with an expert and sit there and be, okay, this is what I want, and I know what you're talking. I have the confidence to sit here. I'm not stressed. I'm feeling okay. I know why I'm doing this. And now all you got to do is you do your job, do the visa, and I'll move abroad. And it works better this way. And you see people who arrive, feeling better with themselves. The transition is smoother. They have, better expectations. They're not, having those fantasies about moving abroad. They know better, and they're more prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're so right. And it's definitely the case of knowledge is power. There is a whole new vocabulary that you need to learn if you're looking to live abroad. It goes from like the basics, like what's the difference between residency and citizenship, from all the visas that are available in different countries. If you want to stay for a while, you could perhaps go for a digital nomad visa, but you were digital nomad, but you also want to stay for longer. There are countries that offer the option of citizenship after, even with the digital nomad visa. Non-passive income visa, G7 in Portugal, that many. Golden visa, lots. So it's good to have a platform where you can actually get acquainted with all this information. And because if the moment you have more knowledge, you feel more confident as well, and the mindset changes. So now, talking about empowerment, I'd like to speak to Bianca now. She's an expat and life coach. And Bianca, welcome to the podcast. I know
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I know you specialize in coaching people through that major life decisions, which includes moving abroad. So what is the first step? Sorry, I moved here the microphone. What is the first step someone should take when they decide to pursue a dream of living overseas?
Well, I mean, I think Gal already touched on this a little bit in her answer as well. The first step I always take with clients is really digging into the why, the goal behind the goal, so to say. There is, of course, the people that move for a great job opportunity. There's people that are seeking adventure and growth and maybe want to learn a new language. But I think it's always very important to look at the why. What is it that you want to change? Why are you pursuing this? Why is this important to you? And then also take a holistic approach of what is important to you. For example, I've made this mistake as an early expat myself. I'm just like, great job opportunity, let's go. And then I didn't take a full view of my entire life, like what is important to me in my social circles, even romantically speaking. There's the finances, the home, the personal growth, your health, your fitness, hobbies that you currently have. So what we usually do is we really do a deep dive into the why, and then also what is important to you in these different areas. What are your core values? So that way, when you're making this decision to move abroad, or you're even selecting which country you would like to move to, if you have that option, we can make sure that it's aligned with your core values. And the other reason this is so important, as we've already established, moving abroad has its challenges. It's not necessarily just smooth sailing and an easy thing to do. So once you're clear on your values and your reason for why you're moving, it's great to come back to that when you're navigating some of those downs or some of those challenges. And then also being clear on the values in the different areas of your life is super important, because again, you can proactively plan for those things. You can plan to find your favorite yoga studio if that's how you unwind at the end of the week. You can already tap into the Facebook groups to find friends or social circles in an area or hobby that you're interested in. So I think that is just the critical first step. And then, of course, there's all the other aspects, right? Planning the visa, the logistics, looking at the practical things. But I think from a mental health, emotional health perspective, the why and the values is a critical first step.
That's great. Thank you. I realized I should have asked you that before, but better late than never. Anyway, let's shake things a bit up here. Do you tell me about your journey? Because you are an expat as well, and you're an expat coach. So I think maybe there are lessons from your journey that you can share with us.
Yes, so let me think here. Just, I guess, for context, I was born in Germany, but moved to the US at a very young age. So I've had family in Germany, kept in touch with grandma and grandpa, but never practically lived there as an adult. And one of my first expat assignments was an opportunity to go to Germany and train there to launch a major retailer in the US. So this was my corporate background. And I thought, great, okay, Germany, no big deal. Finally get to experience as an adult, let's go. And I just took the job opportunity. I thought it would be a smooth transition, but let me tell you, the culture shock of moving from Florida to Berlin was very, very real. And I also, when I landed there, I focused so much on the job, and I latched onto my colleagues of, okay, let's work. You're my friends. We work together. And that ended up backfiring, or maybe backfiring is a strong word, but basically everything in my life revolved around work, including my social activities. And of course, you don't want to divulge everything to your colleagues. If you're having a hard time emotionally, you might not be comfortable sharing that with your colleagues. And I neglected to incorporate these other things that I just mentioned, my own personal hobbies, my own social network outside of work. And I did end up kind of going through a low period where I was self-isolating. I was binge watching Netflix every night. I was lonely. And I really had to pull myself up and force myself to go out there. Another challenge that I had is I was very self-conscious about the little bit of German that I knew. A lot of my colleagues had several months language school training. I knew the basics, and they looked at me and they're like, well, that's good enough, off you go. And I landed in a different part of Germany with a different dialect. I was very self-conscious about my language. And all of these things had an effect on me. And this was a very steep learning curve for my first assignment.
Wow, it must have been really hard, Bianca. Well done for overcoming those challenges. And then the move to Lisbon. When did it happen?
Yeah, so I just hit my 1 year anniversary not too long ago, and Lisbon was actually interesting. So after the Netherlands, I had an opportunity to take a sabbatical where I traveled the world, living the dream. 4 months South America, South Africa, seeing Europe, and eventually I needed to come back to reality. And for the first time in my life, I was able, or I decided not to just follow a job. I picked where I wanted to be and then sought out opportunities that would help me get there. So Lisbon in my travels or Lisbon, Portugal has always been one of my favorite countries. I love the weather. I love the nature. I'm very active outdoors. It really did the coaching thing, right? I reflected on my values. I reflected on what's important to me socially, outside of work. I reflected on the type of lifestyle that I wanted. And yeah, of course, coming back from a sabbatical, I was looking for employment opportunities, but I focused my search on where I wanted to be. And that's what helped me move here. And during that time, I had also, of course, started my coaching practice. And in the course of living here, I transitioned to the coaching full time.
Well, I think you are one of the many examples that we know of expats that say that moving abroad has really transformed them. And I want to ask you now, based on all this experience that you had firsthand, how do you help clients navigate through the emotional ups and downs of starting fresh in a new country?
There's a couple of different ways, and some are also, of course, specific to the client. But I would say the groundwork is something that I've already mentioned, right? Getting very clear on the why and values, because that's such a great tool to come back to when you are having those downs. My transition, even in Portugal, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, is this right? I was navigating a lot of language barriers, challenges like that, but I kept coming back to my why, that I'm here and how this is aligning with my values. And that's helped me navigate. Another thing that I do with my clients is in the very beginning, I dive into their strengths with them. I get examples that where they've demonstrated these strengths and demonstrated resilience. So sometimes when the time is appropriate, we come back to how they've navigated challenges before. So that way they can be reminded and draw on those strengths. I think it's also key to be prepared on what to expect. So there's that, expat roller coaster of emotions between the honeymoon phase, the culture shock, adaptation, but maybe just surface level adaptation where maybe deep down there's still some struggles. So I think being prepared for the common challenges and that this journey of ups and downs is absolutely normal is helpful. And then one of the last tools that we use is we really just address the fears head on, right? What is the worst possible outcome? And getting prepared to navigate that as well. So when the moments get a little bit low or difficult things happen, just pulling from my own experience in the Netherlands, I had moved, and 6 months later, COVID hit hard, and the company I was a part of had a mass layoff. So speaking of worst case scenario and navigating downs, to lose your secure employment, 6 months of moving to a brand new country, is probably as worst case as it gets. And I think it's really important that people know and see for themselves that they have the strength, the resilience, the resources or capabilities to navigate whatever comes their way. So I think touching on these points, especially during the downs, is key for the client to realize that they do have what it takes to navigate this.
I do want to finalize with one question that I will ask you, and I'll also ask Maayan and Gal. So first from you, Bianca, what would you say to someone who's afraid that their dream move might fail? Because the main challenge here is to embrace uncertainty. As you've explained, you gave to us this, shared with us this beautiful story of your life, the journey. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot that come and we cannot control, a lot of factors that we cannot control. But we need to overcome and take the leap. So how would you, what advice would you share with them?
I would say face the worst case head on and plan for it. Be prepared. I actually created a worksheet, and it guides the client through not only identifying why they are doing this, what impact it would have if maybe they don't try at the very least. How would they feel about their life looking back, knowing they didn't attempt it? But then also, like I said, looking at that worst case, right? What if I do lose my job in the first 6 months? What if this or that does not work out? And then really thinking through it. Okay, sure. Like, let's pretend this happened. What are you going to do? What resources can you call upon? What can you plan for? Can you have a little bit of money set aside for a plane ticket home, for example? Maybe even if concerns for like homesickness, things like that are a concern, like how do we plan for these things to make sure that if something does fail, you're going to be okay? I think that's just for mental and emotional well-being important to know that if this happens, I know I will still be okay.
Now I'm going to ask Maya and Gal, what is your advice to anyone scared of taking the leap?
Well, there's so much, and I definitely add to what Bianca said, to not repeat myself. One thing is I want to say, if it's a choice, and we honestly believe that at least in the majority of cases, it is a choice. You always have a choice. A shift of between have to move abroad and get to move abroad makes a big difference in the beginning of, okay, so what is it that you expect to get? And also defining for yourself what it means to fail, if I go back to what Bianca said, because it's going to be different for everyone. You can also imagine what would be to succeed. It will be different for everyone. And then define what it is, this adventure that you're going to for yourself, because it is very different from every single person. And the biggest part is to make the choice and understand that it is your choice. No one forces you, even if there are forces of nature, even if there are different worldwide economic situation. At the end of the day, it is a choice. And when you understand that it is yours, it takes a lot of energy. It is sometimes building up the pressure because you understand it's your life. But on the other side, it means you can always change. And maybe living for 3 months in another country and going back is not considered a failure. It's up to you to decide what it is. So that would be my advice. But you probably have another one.
Those are great advices, yours and Bianca. I couldn't agree more with what you said. But I want to add a little something. And for someone who is afraid and fear is what he's feeling right now, just know that, great, fear is one of the greatest emotions you could have. It's totally normal. You're normal. You're human. It's okay to feel fear. And fear doesn't have to be negative. It's also a great opportunity for growth, to show yourself how strong you actually are, to show yourself how capable you are and how courageous you are. Because if you don't have this fear, then you probably won't push yourself a little bit more outside of your comfort zone, and you won't get to grow as a person. So I believe fear is a great emotion to have and to work with. And like Gal always has this quote that she's saying, if it's both exciting and freaks you out, then you should definitely do it.
And I can share a very personal story regarding this now that you mention it. Before my last move to France, I was terrified of what's going on. It was middle of COVID, my previous business collapsed. I didn't really know what to do, and fear was a very, very strong emotion. Now, knowing that my background is from positive psychology, emotion is something I really love dealing with. And one of the tips that I used to do, and call me crazy, but I love doing those kind of things, is sitting down with my emotions, is accepting that they are here to teach me something or to tell me something. And I remember at the time, it was like 5 years ago, I would tell you, I just had coffee with fear. And she would laugh at me, but it was that, I consider it that simple. I would literally sit down with myself, having coffee, and asking myself, okay, fear, what is it that you're trying to tell me? Why are you coming? Because as Maayan said, you're human. It's fine that you're having those emotions. Those are great things to experience, but they're here to tell you something. And you just need to listen. It's you talking to yourself. So it's a great thing to have.
I feel like I just came back off a therapy session. All those points were so relevant and so important it resonates with me because I'm expat myself. So I went through all those things, and what Gal mentioned about knowing that the option that you are taking, the leap of moving abroad, it's also reversible. When you think, I can always come back if things do not work, it helps a lot. And that's what has helped me every time I decided to go to another country. Laura, I know we mentioned that we were going to talk about the performance of USA in the quality of life rankings, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I'd like to invite our viewers to look into the Global Passport Index by Global Citizen Solutions. The link will be available in the comment section. And yes, so I think that's a wrap up. Thank you very much. It has been great. It was a very enlightening session. Big thank you to Dr. Laura Madrid Sartoretto, Gal and Maayan from Smoozitive, and Bianca Tate, an expat coach. And thank you for sharing your insights and expertise. And I think we've all learned that life as an expat can be full of challenges, but it's also a great opportunity for growth, for connection and discovery. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and share with anyone who thinks will need it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.